This is African American History is American History. The Wilmington Massacre of 1898 was a municipal-level coup carried out by self-described white supremacists in Wilmington, North Carolina. Their goal was to use intimidation and violence to destroy black political and economic power and overthrow Wilmington's democratically elected multiracial government. Black residents were murdered and thousands were banished. The white press in Wilmington originally described the event as a race riot and blamed it all on a mob of black people. The truth of what happened in Wilmington was suppressed for decades until descendants and scholars began to investigate this intentionally buried historical moment.
What happened in Wilmington became an affirmation of white supremacy, not just in that one city, but in the South and in the nation as a whole, as it affirmed that invoking whiteness eclipsed the legal citizenship, individual rights, and equal protection under the law that Black Americans were guaranteed under the 14th Amendment. Historian Laura Edwards.
Now, if all this sounds familiar, a mob using violence to overthrow a democratically elected government and a right-wing media blatantly suppressing the truth, well, that's because the events in Wilmington, North Carolina in 1898 are quite similar to the Capitol attack on January 6, 2021 in Washington, D.C. It was Mark Twain who said, "History doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes." On November 8, 1898, threats and intimidation were used to stop African Americans from voting. Pro-Democratic Party election officers tampered with returns. Because of these tactics, Democrats swept the election. On November 10, 1898, 2 days after the contested election, a mob of armed white men marched to the office of the black-owned newspaper, the Wilmington Daily Record, and set it on fire. After burning the Daily Record offices, a mob took to the streets. They went on a violent rampage, attacking African Americans. The violence quickly spread throughout the black neighborhoods. The Wilmington Light Infantry, the White Government Union, and the Redshirts all poured into the black neighborhoods with rifles, revolvers, and a Gatling gun. An unknown number died that day. Blacks as well as sympathetic whites were banished from the city of Wilmington. On that same day, some 800 white citizens met at the county courthouse and produced the, quote, White Declaration of Independence, end quote, which stated, quote, "We, the undersigned citizens, do hereby declare that we will no longer be ruled and will never again be ruled by men of African origin," end quote. Local elected officials were forced at gunpoint to resign and were replaced by white supremacist leaders. Many black leaders were forcibly marched to the train station under military escort and sent out of town. When the massacre was finally over, thousands of black citizens fled Wilmington. This is African American History is American History. In 1900, the North Carolina legislature effectively stripped African Americans of the right to vote through the Grandfather Clause, and the state of North Carolina ushered in the worst of the Jim Crow laws, which stayed in effect until 1965. The parallels between the Wilmington Massacre of 1898 and the seditious rioters who broke into the Capitol building in Washington, D.C. on January 6, 2021, are too clear to be ignored. Journalists wrote of 1898 as they documented the violence in Washington, D.C., live on TV and social media. Chris Hayes mentioned 1898 in his MSNBC broadcast. Later that evening, on his late-night NBC show, Seth Meyers set aside the jokes to speak to his viewers about the stark similarities between the events in Washington and Wilmington. This has been African American History is American History. I'm Harlan Kearsley. Thank you for listening. And if you haven't done so, please subscribe. Once you do, you'll be notified as soon as new episodes are posted. Thanks again, and please stay safe. African American History is American History. Copyright H.C. Kearsley, 2025.